Okay, today we are learning about a new rhetorical strategy, and that is called process analysis. And essentially, what process analysis is a how to essay. This strategy reflects a step by step process. And there are two different types of process analysis. There is informational, which is how something works. So, some examples of topics for an informational process analysis essay would be how a bill passes through Congress or how photosynthesis works. So, that's the first type. The second type is directional, how to do something. And this is actually more like writing instructions. Now, you will be writing a process analysis essay, and that I won't have those instructions up for another week because it's not due for another week, but we're going ahead and going over the strategy now. So, most of you for your essay will choose a directional type of essay because the informational type often requires research. And since you can't do research in this class, we're not doing a works cited page or any of that. Most of you will choose this directional type, which would be something along the lines of how to change a tire or how to apply makeup. Just some simple task that you can write about in a fairly short essay and give instructions on how to do something. So some things to remember for process analysis. When you're choosing a topic, first of all, you want to choose a process that you're very familiar with. If you don't know how to change a tire, then you're not going to be able to write a very good essay on it. Or if you don't know how to play the guitar, then you're not going to be able to write a very good essay about it. And you do need to be aware of the constraints of the essay. It is pretty short, 500 to 750 words, and again, you'll see these instructions next week. After you've written your essay 2 revision, this is for essay 3. But just be aware you can't pick a process that's super long and drawn out. It has to be pretty straightforward. And you have to remember that you can't do research. So, as you're getting started, you want to use your introduction to explain why the process is valuable. Why should I know how to apply makeup? Why should I know how to color my hair? Why should I know how to perform CPR? That one's pretty easy to explain why. Why should I know how to make chocolate chip cookies? You don't want to jump into the instructions too soon. You want to save the actual process for your body paragraphs. And you want to remember to include a thesis statement. And so in this type of essay, it can be easy to forget some of the basics because it's a really different type of essay. When you're writing instructions to your audience, it just has a different feel than most of the other essays that we're writing. As far as organization, I mentioned using your introduction to explain the relevance of the process. And then typically in your first paragraph, you're going to describe any needed equipment or define any special terms. So if you're talking about how to make the perfect grilled cheese sandwich, then you would want to list out these are the ingredients you need this type of pan, spatula, and so on and so forth. Or I've had students, one really unusual topic a student did once, which made for actually a great essay. He wrote an essay on how to create dreadlocks in your hair. And so he had to describe not only the different hair products that he used, but some of the terms for taking care of dreadlocks. So that was interesting. But just make sure that you are giving all the information your audience needs to be able to accomplish the task. And then as you think through the steps of your process, make sure you place them in logical, chronological order. So like if you're talking about, I'll go back to making the perfect grilled cheese sandwich, you want to make sure you have everything out and ready before you put the sandwich on the pan. You want to make sure that you've heated it up. So make sure everything's in order. And your paragraphing should reflect the steps of the process. So now this can get a little complicated because your process might have 10 steps, but you can't have a 10 paragraph essay. They would just be really small, choppy paragraphs. So, a great example of this, how you can combine smaller steps into one body paragraph, is on page 220 of your Steps to Writing Well book. And they have a really great example of how they took like the 10 steps of cooking fish and divided it into 3 body paragraphs. So, page 220 in your Steps to Writing Well book. And you want to use transitions on that same page in your textbook. They have a great list of transition words that can be useful in this type of essay, so you can reference that as well. And don't forget to include a conclusion paragraph, which this can be tough because you get to the end of the process and you're like, voila, now you have a grilled cheese sandwich. What else can you say about that? You finished the process, but then you again explain the relevance. Why was this valuable? Because you can enjoy a delicious, cheesy, crispy, warm sandwich on a cold, rainy day and be able to provide them for your friends. Your conclusion doesn't have to be very long. It can just be 2 or 3 sentences, but you do need a separate conclusion paragraph. As far as the style, this essay is unusual in that I am allowing you to use second person since, because of the nature of this essay, you are actually directly addressing your audience. You're giving your audience instructions. So this is the only essay throughout the whole session that you are allowed to use second person. So don't get used to it, but just be aware that you can use the pronouns you and your in this essay. You want to explain each step clearly, be literal and specific, and anticipate difficulties. What could go wrong? So remember the first time you changed a tire. My dad taught me how to change a tire when I got my first car and learned to drive when I was 16 years old. And he showed me how to do it. And he explained why you should loosen the lug nuts before you jack up the car. Because if you jack up the car first and then you try to loosen the lug nuts, your tire just spins and spins and it makes it more and more complicated. So even just explaining something like that to your audience, here's why you do the steps in this order because this is what could go wrong. So always anticipate difficulties. And finally, you have to assume your audience has never attempted this process before. Always err on the side of giving too much information. So, and this is again where topic choice is really significant, because if you choose something that's too complicated, it may not work for a 750 word essay, because you have to be able to explain it really, really clearly. And even if you think, I may know how to do this, when I grade your papers, I'm going to go on the assumption that I'm an audience who has never done this before. So this is process analysis. It's pretty straightforward. And when I post the instructions in week 3, I'll also post a sample essay for you, at least one sample essay, just to give you a better idea of what the student version of a process analysis essay looks like. Your textbook has a couple examples, but I can give you even more with some of my comments on them. So for now, you do the reading, you understand essentially what the strategy is, and then next week we'll go over more about what my specific expectations are for this particular assignment.